Well, my father was born here in Portland to my grandparents who were immigrants that came over from Italy. My relationship with my dad was guarded. I was not close to him. That's just not the way it was. Well, when he got really sick this last time where he didn't come home, my mom was already showing signs of dementia, and I became the one that was there for him.
Dying is not only a physical experience, it's a very spiritual time. People are groping with a lot of deep questions. Families are dealing with issues of past relationships, sometimes rifts that have occurred. That can be very, very hard. Families can be overwhelmed by all of the choices and questions and where do I go for help, what's going to happen. And people are afraid of dying. Sometimes families don't have this discussion until they're faced with it, and then they don't know where in the world to turn.
The dying process as a critical part of life is really a part of who we are as a people of faith. We have in the Christian tradition this idea of a preferential love and option for people who are marginalized. We say that or have that interest because it's in the margins that people are tested, that our meaning and value is challenged. The dying process is a kind of marginalization, so this is an area that's of natural interest to us. We're almost destroying death because it seems to us to make what we value meaningless or absurd. And I think that for the faith community, this is a very important issue.
A group of us who had experience caring for people at end of life came together, and we had all experienced the privilege and the joy sharing that with them. We also saw people who had far less than they needed and deserved. And so we asked ourselves, especially as Catholics, what we should be doing with a particular challenge of assisted suicide being legal in Oregon to assure people that they can die with dignity and comfort. And from that, the seeds of Martha and Mary Home were sown.
I think most people want, when their life is coming to a close, is to be treated with respect, dignity, and as much control over their environment and over how things are going for them and what they do with their time. I think most people want to be home, if that's at all possible.
The real need is that there are many people who can't die in their own homes. They can't live there until they die because they don't have caregivers to take care of them, or they don't have an adequate home where they can stay. The adult care home model allows that intimate home setting to be used for people who can't be in their own homes.
So this is the first one in the Portland metropolitan area that will be dedicated just to end-of-life care. And not all foster home providers really have the skill or the desire or really the ability to provide that. Also, this home will work with hospice programs, which is a nice melding of the resources that hospice can bring with what the environment of the home will provide. It's an idea whose time has come. It will be a model for other homes.
Martha and Mary, we know from the scripture, embody both this ministry of service, this active ministry, and also this interior sense and reflection on what does it all mean, which is the deeper level. And I think that that is as important and maybe even more important for this ministry, because that's where it touches everybody. To be this sign to the larger community that we're people of life and that life is constant and continuous, where there is presence, that's a message that people are very hungry for.
My dad was born in Cheyenne, Wyoming in 1928 to my grandparents, Fred and Ceola, went to Cheyenne High School. My dad entered the Cheyenne Frontier Days calf riding contest when he was 14 and won it. And that's where they nicknamed him Toby, and that's how I got my name. He was a character, but most people really liked him because he was a very likable, very funny guy. He was very, very close to his mom. He came back to live with her after he had retired, and then later he came down with terminal lung cancer. My grandmother was 90 years old then, and she had Parkinson's and was legally blind. This was going to kill her if we didn't get him in a care center. She didn't want to not have him have that love and care, which, again, this Martha Mary home would have provided.
We're being given a great house to start our first Martha and Mary home. This is the home of Bob and Evelyn Derringer that they built and where they raised their 12 children. It's a lovely mid-century house with a gorgeous garden and view of the foothills. Bob and Evelyn were very supportive of Martha and Mary Ministries. Bob died in the house surrounded by his loving family in 2007. Evelyn died rather suddenly in the hospital 2 years later. They had stipulated in their will that they wanted their house to be used by a charity after their deaths. We have been blessed by the family to receive that lovely house. Our major task now is to raise the funds we need to remodel the house and to fund our first year of operations. To make the home ready for our uses, we need to reconfigure the bathrooms, add balconies to 2 of the bedrooms for better egress, and build 2 new bedrooms in the garage space. Words can't explain how grateful we are to the Derringers for this house. It will be such a lovely home for people to spend their last weeks and days.
The other thing that's significant about the house is the layout works so well for the program we have in mind here.
The home will have 5 private rooms for people, plenty of space for their families to visit. There will be a chapel. There will be a space for caregivers and for the resource center. There's a tremendous need for all sorts of education around end of life in the community. However, there's not an ongoing comprehensive end-of-life program. We want to develop that and help others develop that in the community, to help people become more aware of what's available for them, to be less afraid of dying, to be more supportive for one another at end of life. We're also developing a Compassionate Companions program in a care center in our neighborhood where our home will be. We're working there to provide volunteers to sit vigil with people who are dying, who are in their last hours, who otherwise wouldn't have anyone with them.
The primary gift is simple presence, just our ability to be there, to give them exclusively our attention, our interest.
I think having a place like the Martha Mary home would have made a huge difference because it would have added so much more comfort, I think, to my father, knowing the care and love and the personal attention he would have received, and it would have relieved myself and my grandmother, I think, a lot, knowing that he was getting the best care possible and at such a personal level.
I think my dad would have been a little more comfortable. He kept thinking he was coming home. So had he been in a Martha Mary environment, my mother would have been more comfortable. It would have felt more like a home instead of a hospital. Plus, they would have helped not only my dad accept the fact that he really was on his way out, but help us with that.
What Jesus teaches us is that the meaning of our lives is love, and love is always other-focused. Making a gift of the resources that we have, in the case of ministering to the dying, that is, not only is it privilege, it's everything. It makes us who we are.